This is my friend Emily, and she's wife to Garrett and mother of two, a little boy who's almost 2, and a little girl who's 3 months now. All right. So I think that you exhibit just this really joyful mothering whenever I've seen you with your children. I'm sure that that's not the case all the time. I'm sure that you have low moments like we all do. But I would love to know, is that a really conscious choice that you make regularly, or is that something that you that comes pretty naturally to you, enjoying this phase of your mothering?
That's a really good question, and thank you. That's such a compliment. I would say maybe both. That it definitely is a conscious decision, especially in the moments when I'm really frustrated or really tired. But I also feel like that is just a gift, honestly, that the Lord's given me to be joyful. I would say before I knew Jesus, I wasn't necessarily joyful, but He's just given me a perspective of the world that allows me to have genuine joy, hopefully. But yeah, like I said, also a very conscious decision. If I can share like a quick example of that. So even just this summer, since Adelie was born, my youngest, the Lord, I feel like, just really gave me the word grateful. Like, Emily, if you could just choose gratitude in like your circumstances, I promise, like, it will give you joy. So my husband was gone earlier this summer for 2.5 weeks, and I just wanted to complain about it. I was like, don't leave me. I'm not gonna. But like, I'm so grateful that I have a husband who's willing to like go and serve and do these things, and also that I have a husband in general. So many moms that are single moms and doing this by themselves, and so just choosing gratitude. Like, my kids are crying at the same time, and I don't know what to do with them. I'm so grateful that they have breath in their lungs, you know?
Yeah,
so just choosing gratitude has made a really big difference for me, and specifically in the last 3 months since having 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So your kids are really close in age. They're both very young. So we're in that really young mom phase of mothering, where you are not having conversations yet.
Except for right now.
Yeah, except for like in a large part of your day until you get to talk to your husband again. So what keeps you sane? What do you do that helps you keep your brain during the long days?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say 2 things. One, if I don't start my day like reading my Bible and journaling, I just notice a really big difference. So just being able to connect with the Lord, like He knows my circumstances, and I can like be real with Him.
Yeah.
And then I can kind of like continue that throughout the day. If I don't start my day with that, it's just really different. And then 2, I really love my neighbors. So next door, she like has a daycare, like in-home childcare.
Cool.
So if they're outside, we just go outside and like, hi, can we talk to you and play with you? And yeah, story time at the library, and just like different things in the community to like just have friendships. And Garrett and I also love to host, like have students in our home or friends from church. And I really think if we didn't have people regularly like in our home, I would probably go crazy because I'm an extrovert. So I need those conversations. So I would say those friendships. And thankfully most of our friends are okay with like coming here because they know that our kids have to go to bed or it's just easier. So yeah, that's made a huge difference for me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So I guess in relation to that, my next question was, you're far away from family, and I can tell that you really believe in having that support group and bringing those friends in wherever you live. So tell me about how you go about doing that, creating a support system, not just acquaintances and people that you know wherever you go, but some real friendships and some real family away from family.
That's a really good question. I would say that is totally Garrett. I'm so thankful because my tendency is to just have a lot of acquaintances and I'm like, all right, bye, see you never. Not like intentionally, but that's just kind of the way that I function. Like I like to meet somebody but Garrett does a really good job of like, hey, can we have you over for dinner sometime this week? And he just goes deep really quickly and gets real and asks people real questions, and I think that's just unifying and bonding.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're just like, hey, let's jump in. So I would say, like, we make a good team in that regard. Like, I could meet people, and he's like, sweet, let's be forever friends. And I'm just really blessed by that because, not having family here, I do feel like I have family in Pullman because of just the community around us.
Yeah. He's a great example of like really investing in people.
Oh yeah, he's very gifted in that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we are not of the same faith, but both Christians, and so I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what you feel like your faith brings to your mothering and how your faith kind of navigates your mothering priorities and philosophies and strategies.
Yeah, totally. Everything. A little bit of what I was talking about earlier. I feel like just perspective, like, knowing that God is my Savior changes everything about the way that I mother, in the sense that I'm not just keeping these children alive, but my job as their mom is to raise them up to know and love Jesus and someday serve Him. One of my favorite Psalms is Psalm 127, verse 3. It says, I'm going to totally mess this up, but I'm going to try. It says, like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. So they're like arrows that are meant to be sent out into the world. And so my tendency is to want to keep them close and protect them and don't be
that mama
tainted
comes
by
out
the world.
fast.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's obviously still important to protect our children, but also knowing they're not mine, they don't belong to me. I'm entrusted with them for this season to raise them up and grow them, but they're ultimately the Lord's, and they need to be sent back into the world and sent out like arrows in battle, which an arrow obviously. So I don't know if that all the way makes sense, but it really does change my perspective of Gentry, Adelie, you are not mine, but God's entrusted you to me, and I want to steward you well and train you up. And so I feel like that's probably the biggest aspect of how faith impacts parenting.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So what do you hope that your faith and eventually their faith does for your children? What do you want for them as they grow up in faith?
That's such a good question.
It's a hard question.
So many things. Something I've been thinking about a lot is I really want my children to be kind, but I want so much more than that. If they grow up and they're kind people, that's such a compliment, obviously, but I want them to be influencers and world changers and not just, oh, Gentry, you're so sweet. Does that make sense? So, but I guess on a personal level, I really want them to find their refuge in God. Adelie means God is my refuge, so I'm named for that. But I want them both to just experience deep, unshakable faith, that they know that God is good and that He is for them, and so that they can go out into the world and do whatever He calls them to do, because they know that their faith can't be shaken, if that makes sense, and nothing can take what's true away from them. So that's a personal level, and then outwardly, I just hope that they believe Jesus to be so true that they want to share Him with other people, and that they can't just go to school and come back and their friends not know Jesus and then not tell them about Him, if that makes sense. And hopefully eventually do that as grown-ups. I think about all the time, if God sends them as missionaries across the world to dangerous places, how am I going to handle that? I'm going to be so sad, probably. Yeah. But then also, wait, that was the goal. I wanted them to, go and do what God called them to do. So it kind of terrifies me. We have this, world map up here.
Right.
It's okay, we want the nations on our mind. This is, God's mission field, And, what if Gentry someday is hey, Mom, I'm moving to Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
No, but yes, that's what I want. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that is my hope, that they would love Jesus and they would be obedient to what He's asking them to do, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. So intentional. That's really, really neat.
It scares me, to be honest, but I also love that it's there because it keeps my mind on it, but also, it scares me.
That's really scary. Yeah. So practically, what does that look like? Sharing your faith with your children while they're young, and then as they're growing up, what do you do in your home to share that faith with them?
I wish I knew like the right answer to that. I feel like that's like the question that I have right now. But things that we're trying to do to be intentional is just simply reading the Bible with them before they go to bed. I don't know if you've heard of the Jesus Storybook Bible. It's like the best. So we read that with them before they go to bed, and then just pray with them right here on this couch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that Garrett does really well, and I'm really trying to do. It's just throughout our day, like Gentry's like playing with a worm. Like, did you know God made that worm? Isn't that so cool? Or like listening to the thunderstorm outside. Like, did you know God like made that thunderstorm? And just really trying to. I mean, if we really believe that's true, like God created all these things, and He's the one that we're trying to honor. Just really trying to like bring that into his worldview, because it's being so shaped right now as they're so little. And then in discipline, I feel like really trying to emphasize like, hey buddy, you need to obey mommy and daddy's voice, because guess what? We need to obey God's voice. So that's something we're really trying to be intentional with, even when I'm like, you just need to listen to me. But ultimately, like, he does have an authority named God, and he needs to obey his voice. And I think that's one of the reasons that God gives little people parents, so that they can learn how to respect and obey authority. Because that's like a lifelong thing. It's not just the 18 years that you're in my home. So those are a couple of the things that we do, but honestly it's hard, and I really want someone to tell me the secret of like, this is how you can really share the gospel and share your faith with your kids. And one more thing too, somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, that you can like preach the gospel to your children, but more than that, they need you to model the gospel to them.
Oh yeah.
And that was just like so good. I'm like, yes, of course. Like they can spot a phony a mile away. Like my kids see me all the time, so they know if I'm like being real or not. So if I'm modeling, hey, I'm gonna forgive you because Jesus forgave me, and I'm not gonna like hold this sin against you, even though it really frustrated me or whatever. So really trying to, just model forgiveness and model what we believe is the gospel to them, and not doing it perfectly for sure, but just striving to do that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really neat. That's inspiring to me to hear you talk about how that's really a part of what's in your mind and in your heart all the time, is that it always points back to your faith and to your devotion, and that makes me want to be better about that. That's great. Thank you. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Yeah.
Emily, what's your favorite sound?
I love that question. Probably my kids laughing and just when they're joyful. Yeah, I love that sound.
And your least favorite sound?
I don't know if this counts as a sound, but things that are like claiming to be true that aren't.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense? So like lies, basically. It just gets me fired up and I hate it. I don't know if
That's a
makes
great
sense.
answer. Yeah. What's your favorite word?
Grateful. Kind of what I talked about before, but.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you know?
Okay. I know that God is on his throne, that he's good, and that he's in control. It's like 3 things that I just have to cling to.
It's a great testament. What do you want to learn?
Yeah, that was the hardest one for me, and I still don't know if I can articulate it, but I want to learn what is my role, if that makes sense. So, like, okay, I have a job in parenting or whatever, but like what's on God and what's on me? Like I just need to trust him with certain things. Or even like, this is a silly example, but yesterday at the park there's like huge puddles everywhere from the rain. Like, okay, is my job right now to like let my kid just explore and get muddy and have fun? Or is my job right now to like keep you out of the puddle and keep you dry? That's like so silly, but just in all things I feel like I struggle to know like, what's my job right now? Like what should I be doing?
Right.
So yeah, that's something that I feel like I really want to learn and like dial in. I don't know if I
think that's the most frustrating part of parenting, is that there is no right answer sometimes. That was like the worst thing when I had my first. It was like, you mean there's not, like I'm okay if I don't have the answer initially. I can go figure out what the answer is. But if there's not a right answer, that drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts.
I know, I hate that.
So much. All right. What scares you?
Yeah. It scares me to think that my kids might not share the same faith as me someday, because I know that I can't force them to know and love Jesus, so that scares me. And also, this is cheating because I have another one, but it scares me kind of that I won't be faithful to what God's asked me to do, if that makes sense. So kind of the last question, like, did I miss the mark? Like, oh, that was my job and I missed it. So that scares me, but also kind of going back to what I know, like, but I know God's good and that He's in control. So I can't totally mess up God's plan because He's God and I'm not. But it still scares me, if that makes sense. Like, that I would somehow mess it up or mess up my kids.
That's a good fear. And Emily, what are you good at?
Oh yeah. I feel like God's given me an ability to just connect with people and engage. And again, Garrett's like grilled me in that a little bit more, but like I love to host and have people in my home and hopefully make them feel comfortable and loved, and so I'd say that's one thing that I can be good at.
That's great. Thank you so much. I hear a little person.
I know.